Are you gonna let Mama film this for a little bit? You be a good girl. I've got Emma sleeping right here on the dock and dot just while I try and get this video up for you guys, because I wanted to do this, before like everything kind of like leaves my memory, because I have a feeling like I'm gonna forget a lot of the details that I remember right now, since I just gave birth like almost 3 weeks ago. So this video vlog is going to be my birth story with Emma, who is now 2.5 weeks old. Today is Thursday. She was born on Monday. Yeah, about 2.5 weeks old now, from like start to finish. So everyone's been curious about this, and I kind of wanted to film it anyways to kind of remember my experience for when we go to have another baby in a few years. So I'm gonna just jump right into it. So because I was a high-risk pregnancy and because I was IVF, my clinic recommended doing a scheduled induction, which I was okay with. I wasn't super against it in any way, so that is what we decided to go through with on exactly 39 weeks. So I was due on August 20th, and then on the 12th at 10 o'clock at night, I went in to get induced so that I gave birth on the 13th. So when I went in on the 12th, the way that my doctor decided to start my induction was with something called Cervidil. It's like this thing, I don't know how else to describe it besides like a tampon basically, that they put inside of you. And what it's supposed to do is it doesn't like start contractions, but it's supposed to kind of start to soften your cervix so that your body kind of hopefully goes into labor on its own without you needing like Pitocin or anything like that. So that's what they did. Right around 11 o'clock at night, they put that in and they told me to go to sleep. So it was not really a lot of sleep because I was woken up a ton throughout the night by the nurses just checking in on baby, because I was monitored constantly because I was induced. They monitor more. Just checking on baby, checking my vitals, giving, you know, updates of what's going on. And so around 6 in the morning they came in to check me, and they said that I think it was 2 centimeters dilated. It was not a lot, and I was already 1 when I went in to be induced, so I'd only progressed 1 centimeter. My body did not like pick up to go into labor on its own, which was a bummer, but they decided to leave it in longer. They usually leave it in for what they say 12 hours. So they planned that around 11 o'clock that morning they would take it out and then begin Pitocin depending on like how far I had progressed and whatnot. So that period of time, I vlogged this whole experience, by the way, so if you want to see our birth vlog, I'll put that in the iCard and link it down below for you guys so you can kind of see the process. Around 2 centimeters, I already started to kind of get into a little bit of pain, but it was not really that bad. More like, I was just telling my doula, because I had a doula, that it was like really bad period cramps, basically. But it wasn't like significantly painful or anything yet. Around 4 centimeters is when it started to hurt. And I had hit 4 centimeters by around 10 o'clock that day. So the Cervidil, they decided to take out early. They didn't wait till 11 because I was starting to be in a lot of pain. And in order for them to check you, they would have to take the Cervidil out. So I started to get into a lot of pain at around 4 centimeters. And so they came in, they checked me, and they took out the Cervidil. So that part was not too bad. It didn't hurt taking it at all. But yeah, up until that point, things had been pretty, you know, not too bad. But around 10 or 11 in the morning of the 13th is when I started to really feel some pain. I didn't want to get my epidural yet. I was very afraid of it wearing off, which is ironic. So I was trying to push through, and they were able to give me something else for the pain at that time, which is something called, I think it's called Nubane. And I knew what it was because I had had it when I was induced with Bryn last May. So I remembered it specifically had knocked me out basically and took away the pain almost instantly. So I was all for like trying that out. The only thing with Nubane is that they give it to you once, and then the second time that they give it to you, it's not as effective as it is the first time. So I was fine with that. I was like, whatever, it'll put off the epidural a little bit longer. Plus I was kind of scared to get the epidural. So they gave me Nubane at around 10:30 or 11 in the morning on the 13th. And again, it took away the pain almost instantly. And I was able to rest my eyes. I didn't sleep, but I was able to rest for a good hour and a half, which they were surprised by because normally it only lasts for about an hour. And that's when the pain started picking up again. So they gave me another dose at around probably 12:30, and it again was not as effective that time. So they didn't want to check me after that because my water had broken, and it wasn't the way I had expected to. It's not like it's in the movies, at least it wasn't for me. I guess for some people they still do get like that gush of water breaking. I just felt like a small trickle of fluid while I was laying in my bed, and I said, I think my water broke, and they didn't know because it was not a lot. But then I asked to go to the restroom, and while I went to the restroom, this all happened within like a 30-minute thing, around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I got up, I went to the restroom, my mucus plug fell out, I went and sat down, and then my water broke right after that. So they came in, they did a little swab test. It came back inconclusive for some reason the first time, probably because it wasn't like a ton of fluid. And then the second time they said, okay, yeah, your water did break, and that's great, but that also means that they can't check you as often because there's a risk of getting an infection if they check you to see how far you're dilating too often after that. So the very last time that they checked me was at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So this was after my water broke, after my second dose of Nubane, after the mucus plug had fallen out. And I was in pretty significant pain at this point because the Nubane again had worn off. The second time it was not as strong. I was trying to breathe through. I had my doula. She had the birthing ball. I was just kind of trying to relieve some of that pain on the birthing ball, which did help a lot actually. I felt more comfortable on the birthing ball kind of hopping up and down than I did laying in bed. But for some reason in labor, I don't know if this has happened to anyone else, please let me know if it happened to you guys too. My right leg got like crampy, but like painful crampy. So sitting on the birthing ball was great for like the cramps in my uterus, contraction wise, but the leg cramp really hurt unless I was laying down. So that really sucked because I had to lay down when I didn't want to, just because my leg cramp was so painful. And I thought it was just so strange. I'd never been warned about that. My doula said it was normal, but I was just surprised by that. So I'm curious if anyone else had that experience. So yeah, around 4 o'clock, I decided I couldn't take the pain anymore. I was ready for my epidural, and I had always planned on getting an epidural. I think there's nothing wrong with epidurals, and I don't think it makes you less of a mom to get an epidural. And I had planned on getting one because my pain tolerance, I knew at that point at 4 centimeters, I was in so much pain, there's no way I could make it to 10. So at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they came in, they checked me again, they saw I had not progressed since noon, which was super disappointing to me. Because I had been in so much pain, I felt like my body has to be progressing in some way because this hurts so much. But it wasn't. So I was really disappointed. I remember there was a clip in the birth vlog where I'm crying because I'm in pain, where Justin comes up to me, but it's also because we had just found out that I hadn't progressed at all. And I was really disappointed in myself and my body, which is so dumb, but in the moment you're kind of just all popped up on hormones and everything kind of affects you. But they came in at 4 and they said, okay, well, you're ready for epidural, we'll go get it. And I started sobbing because I was so scared, because I was so scared it was gonna hurt, and it really was not that bad. I don't even remember the pain, to be completely honest. I had always been told growing up that they give you your epidural in the middle of a contraction, which was not true, because they told me they gave it to you when your contractions die down, which I couldn't have imagined them giving it to me during a contraction, because that would have hurt. Like, I was in so much pain during these contractions. I don't know how I could have stayed still, and you have to stay still. But I don't know if she's what her actual name is, but the lady who does the epidural, I don't know if it's the anesthesiologist or whatever she is, but she came in. Justin was allowed to be in the room with me. I've heard people say that their husbands couldn't, which would be so hard, but Justin kind of stood in front of me and held my arms and tried to just breathe with me through the contractions and through the fear of the epidural. But it ended up being very smooth. Once it was in, I was totally fine. It did not take the pain away right away like the Nubane. It probably didn't kick in for real for about 20-25 minutes, which really sucked. Because what they gave me was called a walking epidural, which I didn't ask for, but I'm fine with it. I just didn't know that there was a difference, which is where I could move my legs still. So I wasn't like numb completely from like here down. I could still move my legs a lot. Not a lot, but enough to be able to like be mobile, I guess. And I was worried about that, but I didn't really think anything of it. And they were numb, but I could move them. It was a really weird experience for me, because in my head, I'd always heard that epidurals numb ya basically from like chest down completely, and you can't even move or do anything. But that was not the case. They put the catheter in, and I didn't move from that bed until Emma was born. So around 4 o'clock that was. And then for like 3 hours, I was in heaven. I was not in pain. I was seeing the contractions on the contraction monitor and seeing Emma's heart rate, but not feeling them. And it was so cool. I just got to kind of relax, take a nap. They let me eat, which a lot of people were surprised by. They let me eat a little bit, not a lot. Like I think I had some cereal and some like fruit snacks or something like that, but it was not like a lot. And my doctor was just not very strict on that, which was kind of cool. So I was never like starving during labor, which I've always heard people say that they were so hungry, and I wasn't. So I really appreciate my doctor for that. But yeah, so that was around 7 o'clock at night, that night on the 13th. I started feeling some contractions again, and they weren't very strong. They felt again like at the beginning when I was like 2 centimeters dilated, kind of like period cramps. And I was like, that's weird. So with the epidural, they give you this button after they place it, where you can press the button to get more medication to numb you better, I guess. And you can only press it a certain amount of times and only a certain amount of minutes apart. So I pressed it once and I didn't notice a difference. And then the pain just sort of slowly increased until about 8:30. Around 8:30, I was feeling full-on contractions again, and I started crying because I was like, the epidural's not working, the epidural's not working, it's hurting really bad. So I called in Justin to get the nurse because I was like, I need them to check me. I know they're not supposed to check you that often. They hadn't planned on checking me again till 10 at night, but I was in so much pain. I was like, I have to have progressed at least a little bit. I was not very hopeful considering throughout the day I had progressed so slowly. And at this point I had been in labor since 11 o'clock the night before, almost 24 hours. So I was frustrated, but I was in pain. I was like, I just need, and the doula was like, yep, let's go get them. Let's go check you. So they came in around 8:30, and it was right at the time when the nurses switch shifts, because they switch at 7, but then it takes like an hour and a half to kind of get to their patients' rooms. So we were waiting for the nurse switch to do it. So our old nurse came in, and then the new nurse checked me right away. And she was like, oh, you're complete. And I was like, what? I don't even know what that means. And they're like 10 centimeters dilated, full effaced. And I was like, what? And instantly, like, the pain went away almost for like 2 minutes. You can see in the vlog in that clip also, I'm like sobbing. Justin comes up to me. He's telling everybody that I'm fully ready to go. I don't look like I'm in pain because I literally like was shocked, and probably was a break in between contractions anyways. But I was shocked that I had progressed. I literally did not imagine that that was going to happen. And I was just blown away and so excited, and also so terrified because that meant Emma was coming. And so I started to kind of like freak out, cry. Justin recorded that little clip, and then we put the camera away for a little bit because I didn't start pushing until, like for real pushing, until probably 9:50. But around 8:30, my new nurse came in, and she said, we're going to do something called practice pushing. So the way that my hospital works is they don't have like your doctor come in to push with you for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long you're pushing. The nurses push with you until they see that the baby's low enough where you only need a few more pushes, and then the doctor comes in, which I think is kind of cool because then the doctor doesn't have to be there for 2 hours. They don't miss their other patients. I just really liked that, and luckily my doctor was there, which was what I'd been praying for like this whole pregnancy, because I love our doctor so much. And he was just amazing with us. So she around 8:30 came in and said, we're going to start practice pushing. And that's when the pain really, I started like, you guys, it's so embarrassing to even think back. I'm glad we didn't film this part because it's embarrassing almost. Not embarrassing, that's not the right word, but I was like screaming because it hurt so bad. And I looked at my doula and I literally was like, in the moment, like, give me a C-section because I can't handle this pain. I literally cannot handle this pain. And she was like, you don't have a choice. We're doing this. So the only thing that kind of relieved the pain was the practice pushing, because you're focusing on pushing down and bearing down really, really hard. And that kind of took the pain away a little bit for like a few seconds, but then it would come back right away. And I was sobbing. Like, I felt so bad for Justin and the doula because I was just a wreck. between 8:30 and 9:30, that hour period where the epidural had completely worn off at this point, I was a wreck. I felt everything, and I was in so much pain, pushing and pushing and pushing. And they call it practice pushing, but it's real pushing. It's just not pushing until the baby's literally coming out. You're pushing for, you know, the nurse instead of the doctor. But it was just awful, and I literally couldn't handle it anymore. Like, the nurse like could hear me in the hallway, and she kept on coming in like, I'm so sorry. She felt so bad because the epidural had worn off. So they called the person who gave the epidural to come back in, but she couldn't come in for a long time because she was helping with some other person in the next room or something, and it probably wasn't that long. It was an hour, but it felt like an eternity because of how much pain I was in. So eventually she came in, and I looked at her like, help me. Like, I didn't know what she could do. I assumed she could just give me the epidural all over again or fix it or whatever it was, but she couldn't. She said that she couldn't give you like the epidural again. It just had worn off. It didn't like fall out or anything. It just it wasn't effective on me, and I was so disappointed. I hope that never happens again. But they did come in, and I had an IV because I was induced. They gave me something in my IV, and I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was just enough. It was not as strong as the Nubain. It was definitely not as strong as an epidural, but it was enough to take the edge off where I was confident enough where I could do it. It took away, like, I would say my pain was at a 10 out of 10, and it brought my pain level down to an 8 out of 10, which was not great, but it was enough where I was confident enough where, okay, if I can push her out in the next hour, I can do this. But it was awful, you guys. It was so awful. Like, my mad respect to anyone who has gone through labor naturally with no pain medication, because it was so painful and awful. Given also that my baby was very, very large, is probably why I was in so much pain according to the doctor. So around 9:30 she finally gave me that, and that's when the practice pushing really intensified, and they were really just focusing on getting her lower and lower and lower into her station, ready to push out. At 10 they were like, okay, she's close, we're calling the doctor. The doctor came in at 10 o'clock, or maybe like 9:50 actually, 9:45, 9:50. The doctor finally came in. He's like, Rachelle, how are you doing? And I was just like, let's do this. Like, I was so ready and absolutely terrified. We had the monitor for monitoring her heartbeat and my contractions right next to me, and I just remember I could not take my eyes off the monitor, making sure her heart rate was still okay. I was so scared that it was not going to be okay. Luckily, like, the entire labor, it had been completely good except for one time, and that only required me changing positions, and then it went back to being fine. But her heart rate had been fine my entire labor, and so I don't know why I was so panicky. It's just that lost mom in me that was so scared that something could happen at the last second, or the cord could be wrapped around her, or I don't know. But I was pushing and watching the monitors at the same time, just making sure she was okay. And the pushing part took, like, from the time my doctor got there, not the nurse pushing, but the pushing with my doctor, went from 9:45, and she was born at 10:10, so about 25 minutes with my doctor. And then she popped out, and I have all of that on footage for you guys as well. I just sobbing, like absolutely sobbing, when they put her on my chest, and I just remember the first words out of my mouth were, is she okay? Is she breathing? And she was, obviously, and she was huge, and I just couldn't believe how big she was. The nurses and the doctors couldn't believe it. They were not confident that she was gonna be big. They were guessing around 7 or 8 pounds, but she was 9 pounds 1 ounce, big baby. And that's why I had been in so much pain, the doctor said, because of how large she was, getting stuck in the birth canal for about an hour and a half of pushing. That's why I was in so much pain. But surprisingly, she did not have a cone-shaped head when she came out, which really surprised, like, a little bit, but I've seen some like cone-shaped baby heads, and hers was not like that. It was pretty normal, and I never noticed a cone-shaped head on her. For being stuck in there for about an hour and a half, was just surprising. She actually did have a huge fat bruise on the back of her head because she was stuck in there, and that's why we had to be monitored for jaundice a little bit more closely. But other than that, she was absolutely perfect. After about 10-15 seconds, she let out a huge cry, and she didn't stop crying for about 25 minutes, which most people probably would not love, but I loved the 25 minutes where she just let it out and cried, and it brought me so much joy. And overall, like, my birthing experience was so positive because there's no scary moments for me. There was no emergency C-section. There's no, I mean, I got through it. I got through with a failed epidural even. Like, I can't believe I did it. I was so thankful to have not just Justin there, but my doula to support me. The whole experience was so beautiful and ended so beautifully, obviously, with my beautiful little miracle rainbow IVF baby over there. But I just wanted to share that experience with you and kind of remember it for myself also. And I wanted to say, like, if you guys are pregnant and getting ready for this, like, don't be as terrified as I was going into it. Go into it, like, so excited, because in the end, like, you get to take a baby home no matter the pain, no matter anything. No matter what, you get to take your baby home, and there's nothing better than that moment of getting to hold them for that first time. But it was an experience. It was painful, and I got through it, so I know that you guys can get through it too. But that was my birth story, and I feel like it was kind of all over the place, but I hope you guys kind of got the gist of what kind of happened. And like I said, we did vlog the whole experience, so you can kind of see a little bit more behind the scenes of what I'm talking about in the link below. But yeah, and now I have this perfect little angel baby. Oh, she's gonna give you guys a smile right when I said that, because she knows that she is so perfect that I got to take home. So thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.